Oh,
So, David, how did you get the idea to create this show? And Garrett, why did you want to be a part of the project?
Uh, I heard about Steed Bonnet from my wife, who heard somebody talking about him, and then she was like, "You should do this as a show. This would be a good show." So I checked it out and I went looked it up on Wikipedia and read about him, and it was like, "This is great." He has a midlife crisis, and then he leaves his family, and then he like is not very good at pirating, and then he gets stabbed, and then he befriends Blackbeard somehow, the greatest pirate. And then we don't really know how any of that stuff happened because there's no history to any of it. There's just these giant holes. So trying to figure out what that was the most interesting part of it for me.
Awesome.
I wanted to get involved because I read the script and loved it, and I've had the good fortune of working with Taika from the movie and some shows, and he sends me things occasionally. And this one I read immediately, and I thought it was both perfect for him and something that I'd be extremely excited to be involved in. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were researching Steed, what did you find to be like the most peculiar thing about him?
I think the most interesting detail that I saw was that somebody randomly saw him when Blackbeard was on his ship, and he must have been depressed, and he was walking around in a silk dressing gown reading a book and just seemed really sad. That to me was like, wow, who is that guy? What's the relationship there? I want to know everything about that guy.
Garrett, did you find anything interesting, peculiar when you were reading the script?
As far as Steve goes,
Yes.
yeah, I related to him. I feel like a lot of Americans probably relate to him, this idea of reinventing yourself or being in crisis with where you are in your life. I feel that way pretty much every morning around 3 or 4 a.m. Yeah.
What would you say was your favorite scene to write?
Oh boy, I don't know. They're all hard. None of them are my favorite. They're all hard. I like them all when they're done. But
Well, what was your favorite scene to see come to life?
I can't talk about it. I think it's later in the season. I think it's after episode 5. There's so many good things, though. I will say, just seeing everyone on the ship for the first time together as a crew, and having Reese come down the stairs and give his speech to them felt like amazing. And then seeing the first scene that Reese and Taika shot together felt really exciting, because it was like, oh, this is good. This is going to work. These guys are great together. And just to see that chemistry was amazing.
One of my favorite scenes to read is the scene where you're not really sure what's going on with Blackbeard, and he has his right-hand man, Izzy, with him, and he lets Izzy in on his little plan. It's brilliant writing.
Oh, nice, man.
I talked to the cast members, and they said that their favorite scene to shoot was in the first episode when they're all together with the British ship. How was that to write and construct that and have that kind of comedic timing?
That was cool. I mean, to write it, it needed to feel like it's a tension scene, because it's almost like a spy movie and they're going to get caught. And then to shoot it, like, it was just very hot in there, and we were all wearing wigs, and there's set food. It's like beef jerky, and it's edible, but like it's cooking under lights. And there was a minute where everyone looked like they were going to faint. But it kind of helped. It was hard to shoot because it's an action scene. It took a long time, but the release, when everyone got to go nuts, people were ready to go nuts. Like, it felt good energy to it.
Do you have a favorite character other than Steed that you really enjoy writing or really enjoy seeing come to life on the screen?
I love all my children equally. It's interesting to look around. Like, I really enjoy writing Izzy, and trying to figure out how he's processing things. And I just think it's interesting on the show to toggle between writing for someone who has a more dramatic acting background versus writing for someone who maybe has like a more of a sketch background. So it's an interesting challenge. It always moves.
Yeah.
You know, like if it's like the last scene that I wrote is usually the person where I'm like, oh, I like that character a lot. Hard to choose. Such a big ensemble, and the characters are also interesting. You can take them so many different places.
Yeah, for sure. What I noticed, and I talked to some of the cast members about, is that it is a period piece, but it's a very diverse cast in that the people of color aren't typecast into enslaved people. Was that a conscious decision that you wanted to navigate to kind of show that other side of history?
Yeah, and just in talking to the room, and you know, it's a diverse room too, and just figuring out like really asking everyone like, hey, how are we gonna do? What do we want to do? What do we want? We don't have to do anything. We can do whatever we want. What do we want to do? And the general consensus from people of color in the room was like, why we don't have to make this trauma porn. Everything doesn't have to be about slavery. Can we have some people of color? Like, it has to exist in this world, but to have it not be the focal point of the stories feels right to me. It feels liberating to write, and I hope it feels easier to play, and that we don't have to live in that place all the time on this show.
For sure. The show also definitely has kind of modern nods to things like fist bumps, and even when they go to kind of that pirate cove, that they make that joke about how it's gentrified. How did you balance out kind of like modern jokes with it still being a period piece?
I don't know. As long as it doesn't, like, the rule was like, because the show will spit something out. If it's too much of an anachronism, it'll just be like, and it'll fall out of the script. So I think just trying to find a modern tone for it and really going in the direction of the actors. You know, you're not going to make Leslie Jones sound ye olde. Like, Leslie Jones is Leslie Jones. I want to see Leslie Jones be Leslie Jones. And there was a moment where Fred Armisen, it was the first time he was going to play. And, you know, I was like, I think I went to his trailer just to say, hey, I'm a fan. I'm glad you're here. And I was kind of like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do an accent? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. No. Okay, so we won't do it. Okay, great. I won't do it. And it was like, yeah, that just kind of works. You know, to just go with people's way of speaking, I think is a more exciting, like, weird stew of cultures.
This question is for both of you. When working on projects that are kind of usually on traditional television show that you have like a set amount of time and restrictions compared to streaming where it's a bit loose, how do you guys go about that, just that kind of different form of storytelling? Or is there no difference to you?
What do you think?
You go faster. Is that what you're asking? Like, when you're under more time pressure and the more.
Well, yeah. Do you feel like there's more room to be creative without kind of the limitations that there are with, okay, it has to be a certain amount of time, you can only say certain things?
Oh,
yeah, got it. Well, I think it puts a lot of pressure on the scripts to be really soundproof and solid. And in this case, we were extremely fortunate to have great scripts that we could just shoot. And it turned out well. Sometimes
it's nice to see something a little bit longer, and sometimes it's nice to see something a lot shorter than, like, you know, I actually think watching The Mandalorian, the first season, was pretty instructive to me, because it was like, you get, oh, okay, just because it's like an hour doesn't mean it has to be an hour. It could be like a 35-minute episode, and it's like, I got enough. I don't need to learn about the weird space cowboy character that I don't care about. I just got my cool action episode. That's nice.
For sure. And what would you say you want people to kind of take away from the show?
Nothing. Relaxation. Have fun. Feel some things. Get a break
Awesome.
from your life and the news.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
As a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. You have a good one. Thanks.
You too.